I'd like to call. I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council meeting for June 22nd, 2026. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jamie, will you call the roll?
Anderson,
Here.
Clark,
Here.
Dean,
Here.
Gardner,
Here.
Muncy,
Here.
Peterson, Stanton.
Here. We have a quorum and I've not heard from Chris, but texted her to see if she'll join us.
Madam Mayor, she sent me a text earlier, said that she. Read you my text I got from her just a moment. Brad won't be at meeting tonight. She has her leg elevated on ice for an injury. So.
Oh, okay. So
I'll make a motion to excuse Chris Peterson.
Second.
Oh, we have to do, can that be a voice vote?
Yes.
All in favor, say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Sorry, I'd assumed that she had contacted you.
Motion carries. She did not. Thanks for us. Appreciate that. Okay, mayor's comments. We've had a lot of comments about sidewalk chalking in recent weeks, and many focused on how bad it is for business. And there may well be some limited disruption or annoyance to downtown shopping. But based on what I've heard from indirectly or directly from local business owners, despite cool weather and rainy weather this month, business in Saugatuck is good, if not better than it was a year ago. What could undermine tourism is enabling or promoting LGBTQ hate on Facebook, including the popular Sauglasville site, which we saw happening on Friday evening. In response to a post from a prominent local businesswoman, which shared photos of Jan Cohen chalking, several people plumbed their dark hearts to attack Jan for her sexual orientation and gender expression. Fortunately, the original post and its comments had been removed by Saturday morning, presumably by the business owner who created it. 2 points I want to make here. First, I will vigorously defend every person's First Amendment right to free speech, even when they attack a member of my community, comments that might enrage me and break my heart. But wow, how deplorable. Second, the LGBTQ community will not stand for bullying. It has taken decades for this town to earn a reputation for being one of the world's top tourist destinations and places to live for people like Gregory and me. As Warren Buffett once said, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to destroy it. Let's not let LGBTQ hate destroy Saugatuck. Finally, a big thank you to Bertie Holly for all she does to promote kindness in Saugatuck, including the care she takes in curating the Sauglasville site. That's what I have. Ryan, your comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. Just an update on the Maple Street construction. And we're hoping to have all of you out on site for kind of an on-site visit after your workshop on the 8th. So if you're able to join us on the 8th, we'd love to have you out there, boots on the ground, taking a look at the active construction site. Water main itself, I think we're a little over halfway now as far as installation, so that's moving right along. They did the tie-in this morning at Allegan and Maple. There's a water advisory for some folks. The folks that are impacted by that receive direct notice. It's a small group of folks, but that there'll be some of these notices going out when different sections are pressurized and tested, and then there's some monitoring that needs to happen for at least a couple of days before that's lifted. But those notices will continue to happen throughout the water main installation. Some of the sidewalk grading work has begun. Key piece is to help us spread the word. They're seeing some issues on site with not necessarily local traffic, but some folks that want to be through traffic and are trying to go from all the way through the site and don't necessarily need to get to a home, and they're kind of not abiding by the local, folks only signage that's out there. So that's created some issues with this kind of increased traffic, some close calls with equipment, as well as some folks not being very pleasant towards the construction workers who are just trying to do their jobs and install the infrastructure and trying to do a good job and keep a safe site. So we do have some additional sheriff's department presence that's going to be, spending some time there, but just trying to remind folks, if you need to, go around, yes, it may take a little bit longer, but it's for your safety as well as the workers and everybody on site. So, and then also for your next workshop meeting, another big construction project for next summer that we're looking towards is Elizabeth Street. We think our engineers should be ready to kind of present some various options to you at that meeting. So look forward to a robust discussion to kind of give some guidance that we can ultimately get put forth into a design engineering proposal and keep that project moving forward as well. So that's all I have there.
Right, I do have one agenda change. If someone could make a motion to add Ingrid Boyer as a guest speaker.
I'd like to make a motion to add Ingrid Boyer from the Saugatuck Douglas District Library as a guest speaker tonight.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed? Great. Any other agenda changes? Excellent. Well, then that takes us to our guest speaker, Ingrid. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I was asked by Holly to come in and give a quick overview of the library's millage renewal, which will be on the August 4 budget ballot, excuse me. So our last time the library was on you want to flip to the first slide. I'm going to keep this brief and then hopefully answer any questions you might have. I've got lots of notes and figures, and hopefully I'll be able to decipher them enough to answer questions. But it was August 2021, the last time the library's operating millage was on the ballot. That was honestly not great timing for us. We moved into our new building in October of 2020. So if you think back, getting that time machine, we were coming out of the lockdown. There were still a lot of restrictions in place. And we, after less than 6 months in our building, which most of that time was intermittently closed, limited services. Our back room was used for quarantining books. It was a wild time. We were in a position to set a millage rate with basically no data on how it would cost us to run this building. So we opted. I think we did a pretty good job, my trustees and myself. We got close, but honestly, it was a bit of a spitball. We decided to do 5 years instead of 10 years, which is a typical renewal period for us. Which brings us to today. In the December 2025 tax bills, the operating millage rate for the library was 0.4284 mils. And for those municipal finance wonks, I want to be clear that that's actually two millages. One is in perpetuity. So it's a 0.1932 in perpetuity, and the other one was 0.2352, which expired in December. So for this upcoming ballot, we are asking we're not touching the in perpetuity millage, which has been rolled back to 0.1888. And we're asking for a renewal to Recover Headley and with a slight increase for that second millage of 0.3 mils. So our total operating millage is what's in bold. In 2025, it was 0.4284. And if the ballot question is approved in August, the new operating millage rate combined will be 0.4886. All those numbers, lots of fun. I'm just going to make it a little bit more complicated in that we are not planning to or have decided not to levy the max that we are requesting. So the 0.3 mils is a 10-year figure. We are in a very fortunate position right now that our full-time employees do not require health insurance, which is a huge financial boon to the library and therefore the taxpayers. I don't want to jinx it, but because of that, we are only going to be levying 0.2750, assuming the ballot measure passes instead of the maximum allowed 0.3. We are very committed to budgeting, or that millage request is a 10-year figure. We want to make sure we're not locking ourselves in if those benefits numbers change, which they can and will potentially significantly. But we are committed to budgeting year to year based on actual need. This is not just empty talk. The library has done this in the past. Coming out of the pandemic, we levied less than we were allowed when we had surplus funds. So this is a commitment we take very seriously to be fiscally responsible on behalf of our taxpayers. Next slide. Speaking of taxpayers, here's how we have figured the impact for our taxpayers. Starting on the low end, purchase price of a $300,000 home assessed at $150,000. The current library operating tax is $64.26. If the approved renewal rate goes through, that goes to $73.29 annually, which is an increase of $9.03. Now, if in 2026, that would be an increase of just $5.31 because we were planning on levying the lesser amount. And so then for the $600,000 home or the $1 million home, those increases go from $18 annual and then $30 annual for a $1 million home. Next slide. So why the increase? Obviously, you all know cost increases. Staff salaries are the biggest driver for municipal governments. That's true of the library. And like the city of Saugatuck, the library is committed to supporting our staff with livable wages. A couple other things that have driven this staff increases upwards is the general increase in labor, including Michigan's minimum wage, which actually did impact some of our lowest wage earners. The bigger factor is that our library workforce has changed from primarily a clerical workforce to increasingly professional. So in our new building, we have automated systems that don't require us to spend a lot of time checking books in, checking books out. We don't make phone calls. We send automated emails. So a lot of the things that used to be done by lower skilled employees, that's automated. But we're doing a lot more that required professional skills, such as planning and coordinating programs, managing an increasingly diverse collection, and everything technology, of course. We also have increases or expanded library services. Since we opened our new building, we've expanded evening hours 3 days a week, and we've had significant increase in programming and attendance. In our old building, we knew this was likely to happen. It's what we wanted, but we weren't really prepared for the increase that we saw in the last year of our old building. I believe we held, let me get this number because it's kind of impressive. We had 68 programs with a total attendance of 270. Excuse me, we went from 68 programs in our old building to 270 programs in our new building. That's an increase of 380. That sounds like ridiculous, 380%, but that is a real number. And our attendance went from 511 in a year to over 3,500, an increase of 680%. We never did adult programs in that old building. It was tiny, and now we're booming. And we're really grateful to the Friends of Library who support a lot of those programs, but that increased traffic, the costs for our staff to run those programs, market them, supplies and materials, it all adds up. And that's one of the things that's driving the increase. The last thing that I want to talk about is the library materials budget. Our print circulation is pretty static, with our costs pretty static, other than just general inflation. Where we're seeing a big increase is our demand for electronic resources, and that's ebooks and e-audiobooks. Those numbers are increasing every year. Last year was a 7% increase, which is great. We love that more people are taking advantage of these. The downside is that they cost a lot more money than a print book. So for us to buy an electronic copy of a book, it costs us about A bestseller will cost us $90, and it's some, as opposed to a print book, which would cost $20 wholesale. And that $90 book has limited circulation. So we buy a book, we own it forever, or until somebody's dog chews it up. But an ebook, they might say, you get to use this 26 times, and then we take it away. Or you get it for a year or 24 months. So the publishers have really found out ways to, I would say, gouge libraries for this type of content. And they know we're stuck because people, this is how they're consuming content. We need to make sure they have these resources. And so the increase for electronic resources is a big factor in why we are increasing that millage rate. A couple other factors, not as significant, I would say, is that we have continued to see a decline in penal fines. We receive money from the county, court fees, things like that, that go to the library. It's not a huge portion of our budget, but last year it was $33,000. 5 years ago, it was $42,000. So it's gone down about 20% in the last 5 years, and that trend is not changing. The other factor, and this is maybe more long-term, is we've seen some uncertainty for federal and state funding going into the future. This past year, we were targeted by DOGE, and some of the federal agencies that support libraries were defunded. It was a mess, but it did and we did claw back those funds, but it did kind of put us on our heels, like, okay, we can't take these funds for granted. So that's another long-term factor that we keep in consideration. So August 4, the library is asking for a renewed millage of our second operating of 0.3 mils. And for the next fiscal year, we're levying 0.275 of those, assuming it passes. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. You also have in front of you our most recent newsletter and an infographic annual report from our previous fiscal year.
All right, questions for Ingrid?
No, well done. Thank you, Ingrid.
Just
Yeah.
a comment.
Well presented.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Helpful info.
Didn't stumble over the numbers.
Our library is a treasured resource in our area. It's very well used and from kids programming to adult programming. So we just thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
It's a
And on
great
behalf of my
resource.
staff and my trustees, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that takes us to the first public comment period. Public comments can be about anything that's on the agenda. Anyone in the room is welcome to come to the podium. You have 3 minutes for those who wish to speak.
Question. Since you brought up the issue of social media, is that something that we can address now, or do we have to wait till the end?
That's a good question. You know?
Yeah, it's not probably something that's formally on the agenda through correspondence or minutes or, but ultimately you're the chair and I would defer to you, so.
Well, if you don't mind waiting till the end, since it wasn't on the agenda, thanks. Anyone online wish to speak? All right, we'll close the first public comment. That takes us to the consent agenda, which begins on page 3. Someone would make a motion?
Mayor, a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by Dean, second by Clark. Any questions or discussion before we vote? Russ?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, good evening. Just item C, just wanted to just again give the Saugatuck Industrial Arts Program credit for the creation of the pallet bike rack, which should be going in at Coughlin Park. Vince and his crew, Vince Heiser and his crew have done a fantastic job on the root beer barrel. And also the star on top of Saugatuck. So I just really appreciate his continued efforts to contribute to the community and teaching some kids on some fun stuff. So it's good to see it's going to look cool.
Great, anything else? All right, it's a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Takes us to approval of accounts payable, which is on page 25 of our packet. Can I get a motion for that?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $622,303.12.
Second.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, hi, Nikki. Line 17, the John Deere Financial, is that beginning payments for our new loader?
No, it was to repair an existing John Deere tractor that we used to rake the beach. Was having some problems where it was only running for about an hour and it would die out, so it needed quite a few repairs. Mark's also on if there's any more specific questions about it, but.
No, thank you. And also, there's a $400,000 and change line item for Skipper's Excavating for Maple Street, so that represents the lion's share of the accounts payable this period.
Great. With that, it's a roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes, and the elevator's fixed.
Muncy.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. No public hearings or unfinished business, which takes us to new business, starting on page 27, employee health insurance benefits for fiscal 26-27. We talked about this in our workshop on Wednesday. Get a motion and then any questions we can
I'll
take
make
then.
the motion, Mayor. Motion to approve the employee health insurance renewal as presented and to increase the city's annual health savings account contribution for eligible employees enrolled in the high deductible health plan from $2,500 to $2,600 for fiscal year 26-27. Second.
Questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. That takes us to property and liability insurance renewal for 26-27, which is on page 40. Again, we talked about this at our workshop on Wednesday. Can we get a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the renewal of the city's property and liability insurance coverage with the Michigan Municipal League Liability and Property Pool for the 2026-2027 coverage year, effective July 15th, 2026 through July 15th, 2027, in the amount of $40,467 as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments on that?
Mayor, I know Councilmember Gardner had a question on Wednesday about risk assessments.
Yes, thank you.
Our treasurer, if you're was coming to the podium, she did follow up on that and
Wonderful.
got a bit of information that might be helpful for the council just for your awareness.
Thanks for joining us, Nikki.
Thank you. I did talk to Jim Newman and I asked him about the risk assessment. He said that we have one or two gentlemen that are local that will come in and do a loss control as needed, but it's also available if we should want to talk to them and get an idea what that is. It's all part of the norm and it's all part of the what we already pay. So there is no additional amount that goes with that.
And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Nikki, was that it's something that they actually kind of do as part of their programming anyway. But given our kind of, lower levels of claims and they're not seeing a ton of payouts from us, it's not something that they've seen a need to, kind of jump in here earlier than they normally would, but.
Yeah, thank you for following up on that. I'll leave it up to city staff to decide what's appropriate. I think that's something that would be beneficial every maybe 3 to 5 years, just to do that. Having worked in risk insurance in the healthcare industry, we did it every single year, which is a completely different industry, but we found it very helpful. It gave us a lot of information on things that we could do better.
Thanks. Thank you, Nikki. Any other questions or comments before we vote?
Appreciate the follow-up.
All right, it's a roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. Takes us to new business C, resolution to amend the terms of the city manager's employment agreement, which is on page 59. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 260622-C to amend the terms of the city manager's employment agreement.
I'll second that.
Since we discussed this in closed session, I think we'll just go straight to a vote without discussion. It's a roll call vote?
Anderson,
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
I'm voting no on this motion for the one-time lump sum performance bonus of $3,000. This is not a reflection of the manager's performance, but simply because our employment agreement raises his annual salary from $135,000 to $145,000 as of July 1st and continues his $6,000 vehicle allowance. I believe this compensation demonstrates our financial commitment to the manager.
Muncy,
I vote no for the same reason that Mr. Gardner explained.
Stanton,
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, that takes us to staff reports, boards, commissions, committees. Brian provided an overview at the beginning of the meeting. Any questions for him on his city manager report? All right, Dan, Fire District Administration Board.
Thank you. Good evening, Dan Fox. Last time you get to hear me say, city representative to the Fire District Administration Board. This will cover data from May, but also the results of our fire board meeting a week ago today. Stay with that first, if you would, for just a second, Jamie. Thanks. Let you enjoy this. This is a symbiotic sort of deal. The kids get wet and celebrate in the spray from the ladder truck, platform truck, whatever they call it. And the crew gets training on that truck, which training on all the vehicles is ongoing training is something that's part of the norm for the fire district. And that particular truck, as you probably know, it's used in action not that many times. So training becomes sort of that much more important because you won't be seeing the truck for another month or whatever. So anyway, works for both of us and certainly worked for the kids, and it's fun for the guys to spray them and fun for the kids to get sprayed. So, okay. This is from the 15th meeting of the 15th. We held our public hearing on the coming fiscal budget, and there being no comment one way or the other on that budget. That public hearing was closed. We adopted the budget. We reviewed the May incidents, which I'll get into in more detail in a little bit. We recognized cost recovery of $252, and as the chief says, every little bit counts. So we like the funds that are 10,000, but 252 counts. We also review the progress and status of the 415 Wiley project, as well as sewer and water connection status at the fire station on Blue Star. And I'll get more into that, certainly the 415 Wiley stuff in a bit. We approved the sale of 2173. That's the last of the two Ford Expeditions that were routinely used in medical calls. It had reached, in the district's judgment, its useful life here. Repairs had been made and a number of other considerations. So anyway, it was dropped from service and put up for sale. And we ended up selling it to Ganges Fire Department for reasonably competitive, slightly on the low side, but it's a mutual aid fire department for us, and they are thrilled to have it. And it actually saves us some trouble because you can't let those trucks go with the lights and siren connections all in place. So you literally have to go through and snip all of those wires and render it so that, some teenager doesn't end up with a free red lighted truck, which something like that happened with a boat, I'm told, a few years ago. They left the decals on it and somebody was out stopping people at will. Anyway, but we were able to give it to them or sell it to them with all that intact. Next one, Jamie. This was a further update on the station at 415 Wiley in Douglas, adjacent to the part of the Douglas government complex down there. It was a quickly put together photograph, so it's not perfect. Least of all because the roof is, if you were looking at it from Blue Star, the roof is tilted the wrong way. The roof tilts off the building, not on the existing building. But 4 bays and a certain amount of space, which I'll show you in an overhead drawing, interior space beyond the apparatus space. Next one, please. So this is how it sits on that piece of property. The stuff in black and white is just the survey or site plan, unimproved as far as the fire district's part of it. The pink part is the portion of the existing building that is being purchased by the fire district on a condominium kind of arrangement. And I'll show you in a bit more detail so you can see what's inside of it. And you can see that little pink square below it is the connection to the apparatus bays. That connection is fully enclosed. It's not a breezeway, just for weather purposes and what have you. Fire trucks, the plan is the trucks will exit from the yellow, as you see, and go around the front. The road, the connection to the main entrance onto Blue Star is not shown yet on this particular map, but they'll exit onto Blue Star. And when they return, they'll return on Wiley Road, which is at the top end of the map there, and through that back entrance, come back to the apparatus bays and be facing in the right direction to leave the next time. Yeah, sure.
Will they be using the same entrance there that the office uses and the police department uses?
Wiley?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Or will
going
you
to
be building a new one?
Wait, no, it's that one, but it's going to have to be upgraded even for Douglas's use. If you've been there,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of a sharp uphill like that, and it will catch their what do you call those plows beneath the trucks?
Belly blade.
Blade.
Bottom blade, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll catch those. It'll catch the fire trucks. Some of the
Oh,
so that's got to be altered, and they're still in the process of figuring out how that's going to go and how we have to share that. Whatever. There's also some work going on in terms of upgrading, including the road out to Blue Star, the quality, the depth of material, the depth of asphalt, because the fire trucks are heavier. But that also suits Douglas because they will be bringing, ultimately, their DPW is going to locate down here. Basically, if off of the lower corner that's just cut off on the yellow building, beneath that, they have, I think, 3 planned structures for salt storage, for vehicle storage, for maintenance or whatever at that site. And the salt trucks come in, they're semis, so they need both turning radius, which the fire district also needs, and they need the level of compaction or stress ability, if you will, of the pavement. So those details are being worked out as we go along. Next one, please, Jamie. This is a closer up. And you can at least see a lot of the rooms in the pink area already exist. If you know that building, that, not in its most recent iteration, but at one point in time, it was the Douglas Hospital. And in its more recent iteration, it was a Holland Hospital local sort of health facility. You could get blood tests and things like that there and see a physician. And so a lot of the internal structure is as we want it, as the fire district wants it. There are around on the right-hand side toward the back, there are a number of sleeping rooms, each single person sleeping rooms, which is something we do not have the luxury of in the existing station. We're going to try and build that as time goes on. There are 2 showers, male, female, which is obviously important. We don't have that option right now. So, but it is the first time we all went through that building as it exists today. we were blown away by both the quality of the construction, which is terrific. If you, yeah, I know you toured the Douglas area. That basic construction was on their side too. Now they added more than we're adding because they needed to, but it's a well-built structure and it was divided in ways that were really suitable for our purposes. So that part's terrific.
And will there be people, staying, sleeping there as well as in the current fire district, or how will that work in terms of where?
They'll be sleeping in both.
Okay,
They're
so
already sleeping here.
will that affect our hiring? I mean, will we need to hire more people
Not-
for that?
Not at the get-go, but the hiring depends more on demand.
Okay,
So, but what this does is get the physical resources as well as people, physical resources for first response. The thinking is these two operations will support one another so that if a big balloon goes up, as we used to say in the Army, who's ever closest will go first, but right behind them will be the other one.
okay,
And again, as it relates to Saugatuck in particular, this puts those, particularly the EMS resources, closer to Oval Beach. Because as it is now, we got to cross that bridge to
Yep.
get to Oval Beach, and on the 4th of July, you don't want to be crossing that bridge.
all right.
Just curious, is this going to be, and of course, I understand that they're both going to be working together, and I understand that. Is this structure going to be more of an annex, or is this going to be a place where most of the office work will be done?
The administration functions
Administrative.
will switch to
Will
this
switch to
location
this.
because the physical facility is
Okay.
better suited, and it's on the first floor. Where
Right,
we are now, all that's upstairs, and so public,
yeah.
we have board members have a hard time getting up.
So you'd have your board meetings here and
Yes. the
all
board
your
meetings will be here,
administrative.
But
moved
again,
over. Okay,
that's off in the future, but hopefully not that far in the future. Yes.
okay,
exactly
thank you.
right. Which then opens up some possibilities here. As I said, again, we don't have individual sleeping rooms in this fire station.
Mhm.
They're
The
bunk
bunks,
rooms,
yeah,
and they're
I've seen
tight.
it, yeah.
And the single shower, so you gotta make I mean, it is far from ideal. None of us would want to spend a night there unless we were in the middle of the forest someplace camping. Okay, we go to the next one. Those couple of those pages were from the 24-page site plan and construction plan that was submitted to the Douglas Planning Commission, and in the first meeting approved with 4 relatively minor addressable contingencies, which we'll take care of. And the construction firm, I was chatting with board chair today at lunch. Somebody was looking out for us for hiring these guys because they are nothing. They have not missed a single beat. They are, I mean, they even have the slogan, whatever it is, plan the work, work the plan. They do that, and they plan to it fairly well. They've had their guys up here day after day, measuring things, looking things, doing all sorts of ground, borings and stuff, whatever. And you can see in the next one, Jamie, this is just a couple of pages from the overall plan, but it is essentially a perk chart showing times, and to our great delight, when you get all the way down to the bottom, April 26th is the anticipated completion date, which, depending who you talk to, is 3 or 4 months sooner than we had hoped. So, and if you, I know it's too small to read probably, but if you read the individual things, they are detailed. Each one of those is a very specific masonry on the outside, this by this date, steel structure, the apparatus bay is an off-site engineered steel building, disassembled, brought here, and all detailed. Boom, boom, boom. They're all over it. Very good. We're thrilled. So next one, Jamie. So I said I'd get to the incident summary. Diana was nice enough to say it's been busy lately for the fire district, and it has been. 89 calls, up from 61 in April. Some of that is this usual sort of seasonal increase, more people, quite honestly, in the area who don't know the area, don't know when to look left or look right or look at all. And I don't know how many people I've had walk across. I know they're I know there are white hash marks on the street, but you're smart to look both ways before you step into those. And I'm seeing people carrying babies into there and not looking either way. And it's like, oh my God. Year to date, we're down. But that is already starting to change and probably will change. Response time is basically consistent. Life ambulance runs quite a range, as you see, from roughly 4 minutes to almost 10 minutes, but that is highly dependent on the location of the call and to a certain extent, location of where that ambulance happens to be when the call comes in. Types of calls, emergent call for emergency or emergent calls are the lights and siren calls. 40 up from 23 for the same period a year ago. 45 EMS, general sickness, breathing problems, and falls being the most common. Falls used to be the top most common. Now general sickness, varieties of sickness has unseated it, if you will. Motor vehicle accidents, incidents, 8 of them, 40 year to date, likely due to traffic, construction. And while it's very difficult to determine, as you look at them, inattentive driving really has to be the most, because I don't think any of them were substance involved, marijuana or liquor or alcohol, whatever. But some of them can only happen if somebody's driving like this. And if you haven't seen that, you're not paying attention, because it's all the time, and you can't, it begs for trouble. Friday's the highest call volumes. Next one, Jamie, please. By the jurisdiction, 50% in the township, 30% in Douglas, and 20% here in Saugatuck. And the outside the district calls are mutual aid calls. The incident breakdown, medical, as always, the number 1. False alarms, no emergencies, 82, and so forth. Public service, fire, hazardous situation. Bottom line, May showed an expected increase in calls after a slower than expected April and even slower prior months. Next one, Jamie, please. Oh yes, one more board highlight from that meeting. That appointment was unanimous, go figure. But I told them when that motion was made and passed, I'm honored, truly honored. I didn't make up the quotes, and in the event you had any question whatsoever, this was not my idea, period. This was Greg Janek's. He brought this forward. So I'm pleased to still be involved, partly because of that new station, partly because of some of the work I've already started doing on contract negotiations and union management chit chat, which is kind of interesting. But I want to thank those of you who are kind enough to send me congratulatory notes, and thank you for 6 years. Although I don't know that any of you were actually in the room 6 years ago, were you? Help?
I was not.
I got appointed, so I guess I should be thanking 6 other people, 7 other people, whatever. Thank you. And I'm honored by it and pleased to do it. I also said, somebody said, well, what about the serving on the fire board? And as you know, those are 6-year appointments. And I want to take a guess how old I would be if I was, 6 years from now, if I was standing up here. Nor do I. But the answer is 85. And I said, I'm not going to be doing this at 85. I'm not going to be doing that at 85 either, or 84, or 83, or 82, and 81's hanging on the balance. We'll see. And next one, please, Jamie. We talked earlier about the motor vehicle incidents. This is a week ago today, southbound down near the M89 exit on 196, 3 vehicles involved in a serious accident. They're on both sides. The white Jeep is in the median. The Lincoln, I think it is, with the back end bashed in, is in the right hand shoulder. And the Subaru, the bottom is in. And as I say, this happened because somebody wasn't paying attention. Nobody was speeding. I mean, dramatically that they can tell. Thank God nobody was injured. Jamie knows this because the earlier version of these slides I sent over today and had reviewed with Greg Janik in the first picture where the spraying of the children was shown. I had included a single, it was not gross in any way, but it was startling. A photograph from the fatal accident, which occurred, I think, an hour and a half before this one occurred on the other side of the highway, north of the 36 exit, where, again, inattention is the only way you can explain it. If you've driven that stretch of road, I mean, most of us probably don't, but there are all the barrels. There's a reduction to one lane on the other side of the bridge for the cleanup from the pellets, plastic pellet accidents some months ago, and they're still doing that. So it goes to one lane, and it's notified with a flashing signboard. The barrels come out very gradually, whatever. Fellow driving at speed northbound had all that warning, and apparently too late decided, oh, I got to get in the left lane, not realizing that the truck that was in the left lane was dead stopped, as was all the rest of the traffic going north. And the photograph of what's left of his car after it basically wedged itself under a semi-trailer is startling. That's why I wanted to show it, because not for you guys as much as anybody else sees these things. It's just horrific. 82-year-old gentleman from Hollow passed away immediately. I mean, you couldn't survive that accident. Thank God, I guess he was the only one in the car, because nobody else would have made it either. So anyways, it says, stay alert on the highways, please.
Yes. Thank you, Dan, and thank you again for your service on the fire board. Congratulations on being the first fire commissioner. It's a great way to continue to keep you engaged and use your fire brain, and we appreciate all you do.
Pleasure. And check to Greg, as I said, it's his idea.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, that takes us to the interurban board. Gregory?
Yes, the interurban continues to be in a very strong financial position. After 8 months of service, expenses are running at about 60% of budget, slightly better than last year's 63%. Some costs, including wages, benefits, fuel, and materials, are higher due to expanded service levels, inflation, and increased usage. But don't let that fool you. We are expanding. We've got about 6 more buses coming this year as we're increasing the fleet from 8 to 14. So our expenses will go up dramatically within the next year or so. On the revenue side, we're at 64% of the budget with a little over 3 months remaining in the fiscal year. We've got higher fare revenue, property tax collections, and federal grant funding had all contributed to our strong performance. Our cash reserves remain healthy. And our Michigan class investments have generated more than $33,600 in earnings this year. So that's a good investment. I know we do that with the city here as well. Ridership continues to set records. May marked the start of our late night service, which runs from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And in just its first 2 days, we generated $826 in revenue. The most popular stops were Super Value, the Fenville Post Office, and the Dollar General. Riders are also increasingly using the Interurban app, with a record 66% of rides booked through the app on one Saturday. So that's becoming quite popular. We added 531 new rider profiles during the month and recorded another all-time ridership record with 6,848 passengers. Overall ridership is up 18% compared to last year, and it just keeps growing. And as you've heard me the last few years with these reports, every month is a record month. And it just every month, it just keeps increasing. Staff also reported that work continues with Spare. That's our software program that also includes our app. And our new account manager, and progress is being made in improving the system, getting all those kinks out, addressing ongoing issues. That software helps us to route everything, and the more we use it, the better our routes get. Under the new business, the Director Review Committee reported that it had completed its review process of Becky, our Director, and our board approved a 6.5% increase to our Director's annual contract. The board also reviewed health insurance options for the upcoming year, keeping the current plan that we have now, or that we had, would result in a 14.1% increase in costs. That's pretty big. Staff had recommended an alternative priority health plan with a higher deductible and slightly reduced coverage after the deductible, which would limit the increase to just 1.8%. The Interurban will continue making HSA contributions of $1,600 for single coverage and $3,200 for double coverage or family coverage. Finally, the board, we also discussed the state health insurance contribution cap because the proposed health insurance costs exceed just a little bit the state's allowable contribution limit. The board voted on opting out of the cap for the 2026-27 benefit year as permitted under state law.
Thanks, Gregory. I used the app this weekend and it was awesome.
Isn't it
Love
cool?
Yeah.
You can see the little bus.
I know.
Where it's at and how far it is from you. Yeah.
That's great. Joe, Cal Lake Sewer and Water.
Yeah, we had a board meeting last week, relatively uneventful, so not a lot to report. Still ongoing discussions around the easement for a new force main run down Old Elgin Road. And if you remember from our last report, that easement shows it traversing some property that Cal Lake bought for purposes of maybe future plant expansions. So the engineers are still going back and forth on what, if anything, they're going to recommend to potentially, change the location of that force main. Union reached out to begin negotiations, so that resulted in a closed session during the board meeting. And other than that, new finance manager was hired and coming on board. I know the authority administrator is looking at a standardized set of reports for the municipalities. We talked a little bit about that, so we'll be looking forward to him coming on board and hopefully standardizing the information and getting it out to the communities.
That's great. Let's go. Any questions for Joe? All right, it's the Cal Lake Harbor Authority, Matt Ryan, any updates there that you know of?
The meeting was canceled. We're working on a rescheduled date.
Okay.
Yep.
And I don't think there's been a ZBA meeting, is that correct?
Not last month, correct.
Okay. Historic District?
At our last meeting, probably the most notable project that we looked at was there's a home in the historic district at 821 Holland Street. It's very visible from Holland Street when you come into town. New owner has removed the siding and came forward before the commission seeking to get permission to demolish the property. The historic district commission noting that it is indeed in the historic district requested that it be looked at by a preservationist to determine if the building actually can be saved. So the applicant will be coming back to us with a little bit more information before we make a decision if that building cannot be saved. Next meeting is on July 2nd at 6 p.m.
Thanks. Russ, planning?
Yeah, Planning Commission met last Thursday. We had a number of items. New business was for 150 Dunegrass Ridge, a site plan review, which had previously been reviewed and was brought back with the final plan that was approved unanimously 7-0. We also had the Wickwood back with us with a public hearing, which turned out to be really not a public hearing, but anyway. The discussion was around a text amendment that they're asking for the city to consider. This is the first for the Planning Commission to have usually this comes from either the council or it comes from the Planning Commission or the consultant. It doesn't usually come from the public. And what they've asked for is to add a definition called a boutique inn in the zoning. The Planning Commission discussed this at length, and we had representatives here from Maplewood, or pardon me, from Wickwood. And essentially what's going to happen is it was tabled. It was tabled a 5-1 vote. Mark Lachey was the no vote on that. But the gist of this is that there was some discussion around with the master plan process underway. Would the Planning Commission consider adding a new definition to the zoning code prior to the master plan being finished? There's some discussion around that, as well as the some of the impacts that this definition would have to the zoning for specific properties. And more importantly, what impact it would have in other properties in town. And when we looked up boutique inns, the only other boutique inn in town is the Porches on Mason, which is actually not officially a boutique inn. They just market themselves like that. So it's very interesting to kind of go through this. This is kind of the fun about planning commission, is to discuss these topics. And, you know, the Wickwood has been very proactive in terms of just what they're trying to do in the community. And they've been at our meetings quite often to talk with us, and this is their most recent proposal. Again, a pretty unique item, but at this point, we've chosen to table it. We'll have further discussion at our July meeting, which will be on July 16th. Master plan discussion, we are beginning to fall a little bit behind on getting this ready. We had initially planned to have this presented to the community, pardon me, in September. The thought being is we want to have this in and out to everybody when there's people in town. So there's some discussion with Grayson, our zoning director, and trying to find some additional resources to help David Jurasik. He's been the primary driver on the master plan from a work standpoint. So we're working with Grayson and David to identify some additional resources to maybe get this moving faster. It's not that it's not being done, it's just it's taking more time, and it's just we want to stay on track to get this done when we had planned to get it done. So I'll have more information on that schedule when I report for our July meeting. So
Russ, when you say boutique inn, and you know that kind of intrigued me when I saw your guys' packet. Is that as opposed to another inn? I mean, I think when I think of, inns around town, I think a lot of them are boutique, they're specialized, Maplewood or, different ones around here. Would that qualify for them for different, different rules, or is that the intention of that, or?
yes,
What would be the difference if they were a boutique inn?
the primary difference would be, and there's two things that it would give them some latitude to do. One would be a food and beverage service to general public. That's not currently permitted underneath the current definition of bed and breakfast in our zoning code. They're not currently permitted, but they're seeking pathway to that. This is part of the presentation. The other one would be non-guests at events. The way the zoning code is currently written is that events are for their registered guests, and I think they have 14 rooms and 2 people in a room, so that's 28 total guests at a given time. That's, again, not currently permitted, but they're seeking pathway to approval. There's some other conditions that would also go along with that definition, but we had a lot of discussion around what that would actually mean, not just necessarily for the Wickwood, but if you were, name it any one of our other establishments, Porches on Mason, name any of the Shipping Shore, name any of the places in town, there could very well be some impacts to other properties or open up other opportunities for properties that maybe we didn't intend. So that's the discussion around this definition.
It sounds very similar to what they would have like at Mackinac Island.
Mackinac-
Where you could go and have breakfast, the
Hotel.
public could, but there's also rooms upstairs.
Yep, the Grand Hotel is actually
the Grand,
classified as a boutique inn.
Yeah,
And here it's just a marketing term because we don't have it in our zoning code.
right.
Right.
I understand.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
It is.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
PPW, Lauren?
Yeah, we met back on June 2nd, and as Russ mentioned, big thanks to the industrial arts students, Mr. Heiser and the CVB for creating the artful palette sign bike racks. We will be getting one, and of course, there's one in Douglas already, so those were really fantastic. Kelly Roach and Judy Teal went around town and made some recommendations on locations for wayfinding signage. There's a comprehensive list in our PPW packet from June 2nd. This can be used once we have that logo and branding completed, and just really some valuable suggestions from that PPW work group that got together to do that. In relation to that, they had a suggestion that for John Willem Trail to have signage there as a walking path to Oval Beach. A lot of people aren't aware of it. But people could take the chain ferry over, you could backpack, walk into Oval Beach, and if there was signage, maybe more people would use that as an option to walk to Oval Beach. When the survey went out, and I know a lot of us completed that, and a lot of people responded to the survey, we heard from a lot of residents that wanted more benches or picnic tables throughout town. So Keith Cherrick and Brian Hoffman worked on recommendations on areas where benches or picnic tables, or even those picnic tables that also have, they're like game tables. So they're smaller picnic tables, but could also be used as game tables. They went around and made some suggestions on where we could add those things. And then the PPW project manager, Michelle, plans to work on pricing and getting specs ready. So whenever we have maybe a donation or a request for a donation, that those would be ready to go if somebody wanted to donate something like that. And also some information to pass along. Our deputy clerk, Sarah Williams, let us know when there is a line at Oval Beach to get into the, when there's a line of cars. Apparently, they've been working with the employees in the booth, and Saga Taco and the Interurban have been working with the employees in the booth. They will quickly pause outgoing traffic so the Interurban can go in and drop off passengers, and Saga Taco can also go in with their e-bike and drop off any, food that is being delivered. But all they do is quickly stop outgoing traffic, get those folks in, and it's just a really nice thing. So it was something we weren't aware of, and we love it, and we think it's a great idea. And then finally, the first Crazy for the Kazoo event happened. There was about 40 volunteers in what ended up being a very blustery, not very warm, pleasant day, but 40 volunteers came out. They were dispatched to parks and areas along the river. They picked up 250 pounds of trash, and 80 pounds of invasive species were pulled and properly disposed of. So a nice group of people that came in and helped with all of that. And our next meeting is tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
I can't get over all that trash.
I know.
That's a lot.
I know. It kind of, it collects in certain areas. So it's great. And there were some private groups that did it as well, that went all the way out to the Cove as well.
Cool.
So there was just a lot happening that same day.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anything on the tri-community non-motorized trail?
Just briefly, C2AE will be out staking the route on July 7th to prepare it for the archaeologist to begin her assessment.
Terrific. And the Water System Operations Contract Advisory Committee, which of you wants to recap that?
We met June 18th at Douglas City Hall. A lot of discussions, good discussions around, we're getting into the nuts and bolts of the sewer capacity and plant expansion and costs associated with that. So still very much in negotiation. We have another meeting scheduled on July 8th at 11, I believe.
Yeah, we're hoping to have some kind of further really financial detail that we need to, kind of better understand some of the give and take with what's proposed. So
Those meetings are open to the public, so if you'd like to come. Brad Lubbers, our county commissioner, has been at most of these meetings, which I appreciate, as well as Bob from Cal Lake. So if you'd like to kind of hear how this stuff works, come and listen.
Barry Johnson.
Yep, Barry Johnson. Yes, thank you. Barry Johnson from one of our board representatives. So
Excellent. All right. Lauren, Logo and Branding Advisory.
Yeah, we met back on June 9th, and our design group presented about 5 different logos. We were very thrilled with all of them. We decided 4 of them were definitely worth keeping. And we made some suggestions about maybe combining some of the logos, what some had going on, and they're going to represent some of those changes to us on July 7th. So I think you guys will be excited with what they've come up with. We're excited about them. So we hope by July 7th, we'll have some new logos to peruse and then present to you when those are all ready.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. And Gregory, bring us home with the Parking Improvements Task Force.
Okay, well, I gave you guys a really good update from our last meeting, so I kind of condensed it for folks that weren't paying attention, or maybe you're new or somebody online wants to know. We spent most of our time reviewing the first parking occupancy study, which was completed on May 2nd, where folks came in and watched the behavior of people parking in and out of town. That data confirmed that the downtown parking gets very tight during busy periods, with off-street lots reaching about 92% occupancy and on-street spaces around 86%, which is generally when visitors feel parking is essentially full. However, the good news is that areas outside the downtown core and which is a very small part here. It's not a big area, by the way. The residential neighborhoods on the hill still had available capacity, as well as all of our parking lots that we are using for the interurban, for the high school and that. We also discussed future parking needs as new development continues. We've got lots of new development coming on Blue Star Highway, and current estimates suggested that demand could grow by another 100 to 150 spaces. So that's more reasons to use the interurban and park a little bit further away. I think a lot of it has to do with education, because honestly, there is parking in Saugatuck. And, it might be, you might have to take a shuttle, you might have to walk a couple blocks, but with over 1,860 parking places here in the city of Saugatuck, along with the use of the interurban with Douglas and the high school, there's still available parking all the time. Parking enforcement was another major topic. We discussed challenges with enforcing the current 3-hour limits and reviewed the possibility of a seasonal ambassador-style program focused on education, visitor assistance, and encouraging turnover in downtown spaces. Just this downtown spaces that most people think, oh my gosh, the town is packed, when everybody's parked on, Butler Street and Water Street and some of the streets in between. There is a 3-hour limit. We just don't enforce it. And just a reminder. And then also, we talked about employee parking options, and permit programs were also discussed. Remote parking and shuttle service continue to be viewed as one of the most cost-effective solutions. And I want to thank Becky at the Interurban, who is, we have that great, the shuttle service that we're using this year. I think that's a great solution for parking as well. And conversations are ongoing with several community partners about additional parking locations for employees. We also reviewed the possibility of converting Butler Street into one-way traffic, which could potentially add around 60 parking spaces. While the idea has potential benefits, there are still concerns about traffic flow, pedestrian safety, deliveries. If we were one way and we had a delivery truck, which we do on occasion, that would stop traffic altogether. Although they only stop for 10 to 15 minutes, maybe at a time, delivery trucks would stop traffic altogether if it was one way. Also, business impacts with the one-way traffic. So that discussion will continue. That's a big ask for the city to redesign our roads. And I don't know if that would be as effective as some of the other solutions we're looking at. Finally, additional parking studies will take place during the peak summer season. We'll do it here in July and the next month in July. We'll continue evaluating enforcement, employee parking, tourism data, remote parking, and other long-term strategies before making final recommendations. Our next meeting is June 30th. We'll have 2 more meetings after that. And then we should be able to wrap things up. Walker and Associates will give us our deliverables, and we'll be able to use that. We'll probably have another meeting together after Walker, maybe a second one if we need it, before we approach the council with some recommendations for better parking downtown.
Great. Thanks, Gregory.
Great work.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to public comment. So this public comment, you can speak to anything that's on your mind. When you get to the podium, please just give us your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, John Thomas, 141 West Street. I want to thank the mayor for her comment at the beginning of the meeting about the disturbing comment that was made on a social media site on Facebook. And to put it in my context, back in the mid-1990s, I ran for city council at a time when the gay community was advocating for change to the already existing human rights ordinance. And all we were asking for was the inclusion of 2 words, sexual orientation. And there was quite a bit of pushback, surprisingly, in this community. And it took quite a while for us to overcome that. But as we all know, Saugatuck got well beyond that, and today is well known throughout the state and the nation as one of the most accepting and inviting places on the planet. Those comments that were made on that site run the risk of damaging the reputation that we have built and worked so hard to achieve. So I would like to ask everyone who has influence, and all of you people are very influential, to do what the administrator of that site did. When you hear those kinds of things in conversations, or you see them on Facebook, say, no, this is not who we are, and continue to defend the reputation that we've all worked so hard to build. So, thank you.
Thanks, John.
I didn't see any of that, did you? I saw Maurice, but
Anna Cohen, 69 Wiley Road, Douglas. I want to just second all of that, Dawn. Thank you for saying all that. While I was sitting back there, I just had to jot down a few things so that I could get up here and read it and not forget anything. I want to say a few words about someone we all know. This person has the highest level of integrity, support of our community, supporting our community, state, and country, hardworking, huge heart, and is out fighting on the front lines for every single one of us. This person is my wife, Jan Cohen, and I couldn't be more proud of her. It saddens me that so many of our community members have chosen to go to threatening and bullying her without even getting to know her. It saddens me even more that a couple of council members that actually sit on this board have supported this bullying. Thank you for standing up for all the LGBTQ community, and at the same time, standing up for every single person's free speech. That's all Jan and our group has been doing, is standing up for every single buddy's.
Go ahead.
What is that for? Free
Go ahead.
speech. And the rights of us as American citizens. That's what we're fighting for. So, thank you. Thank you, John.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Donna. Anyone else?
Hello. My name is Diop Harris, a resident of Battle Creek, but coming to you as a prospective federal partner. I'm running for Congress. Saugatuck is in our district as well, in Congressional District 4. I'm campaigning on the political trail. I'm exercising my free speech. But the human embody of free speech is what I see here out of Jan, someone that is making their voice heard in a lot of different creative ways, bringing people out from the community, airing out their concerns, looking to build the movement. And so while we're here today because of something unfortunate and glad to see everyone coming back here to combat hate, but just knowing that this work has to continue, for folks to be able to feel like they can go outside and talk to their neighbors about things that they're concerned with. And so everyone in this community should be standing up and fighting for that. And that's what I'm here for. And please tap me into any other good trouble that we need to get into. So thank you all, and thank you for all the work that you guys do.
Thanks, Dia.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
Jan Cohen, Wiley Road in Douglas. I'm not standing up here to say that people can't call me names and
misgender me and attack me verbally on a personal level, honestly, that I'm somewhat unaffected by that. To me, it's not about me. It's about our community, and that this kind of behavior is taking place on an ongoing basis. It started last October with Mr. Muncy, and it has continued ever since. Every week, like clockwork, I chalk, not in the winter because sidewalks are covered with snow and ice, or I do it then too. Sometimes people come and help me, sometimes I do it by myself, but one way or another, we come and we get our messaging out every single week here in Saugatuck. One of the reasons we do it in Saugatuck has nothing to do with the 70% that agrees with me in Saugatuck. It has to do with the people that are clueless, that don't know. For example, in our last election, 75% of the people voted Democratic, or 75 million, I'm sorry, 77 million voted Republican, 85 million didn't vote at all in this country. And those are the people that we're trying to reach every single day. Do we want to cross over the aisle for all three of the parties? Of course we do. But honestly, that's a lot of hard work that fails miserably most days. People are set in their ways and generally speaking, not ready to listen, not willing to listen. And we're trying to change that. We're trying to create public awareness. Everything we do is public awareness. We don't do anything else. Our signs reflect what's going on in this government. Our chalking reflects what our signs say. Everything out here, for example, on Friday night was all about voting. The right to vote. Get out there and make sure that you're registered. Make sure that you verify that you are registered. Raise your voice. Vote. Get out there and vote. That's your superpower. And so I had this all over the sidewalks, and 3 local men who described themselves as local and called me by name and knew where I lived, knew my address. First, somebody said, "Give me your address." And I said, "Why would I give a stranger my address?" And he said, "I'm not a stranger. I know who you are." And I said, "Okay, great. I don't know who you are. Do you mind introducing yourself?" And he said, "I'm not going to shake your hand. You're just slime." I said, "All righty then." So I just got back down and started chalking again. And he just kept going on and on and on. And then 2 of his friends showed up and joined him. I said, "What is this, a public meeting?" And they said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is. It was already conspired to come here today. And we're going to keep coming just like we did last week and the week before. And we're going to drive you out of town one way or another. We want you to go back home where you belong. You don't belong here in Saugatuck." And I just ignored him and continued to talk. They started yelling, and a group of people grew around me and started yelling back at the people that were yelling at me. I didn't have to do it. People actually took a stand. Anyway, this is about what we are going to allow in our community, who we want to be. And this is not who we are. And I think it's disgusting. And for those that are doing it, I say, please stop, because this is libel and slander. And I will take it to the next level if I have to.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online wish to make a public comment? Okay, with that, we'll close public comments. Thank you all. That takes us, I don't think we had any correspondence. That takes us to council comments. Russ, why don't we start with you?
No comment this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Joe?
Just I'm looking forward to serving our staff. I mean, they do so much for our community, and being on the grill or wherever I am for the day, and we're looking forward.
You can be on the grill.
On the grill.
Okay, yeah.
Also want to thank the professionals that are behind us on their sewer negotiations, as well as the floating home litigation. It's really good to know. I mean, there's some really talented people that support this town.
Great.
Good to know that they have our back. So
Thanks, Joe. Scott?
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Cummins on another successful year with the city. The taxpayers are lucky, frankly, to have him as are all of us on this board, to have him serving as our city's CEO. And I just want to say how much I appreciate your continued leadership of the day-to-day operations of our city, Ryan. So congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Gregory?
No comment.
The last thing I just wanted to mention is we had someone pass away in our community that was a dear friend to many of us, Dave Cernugal. Dave had 5 kids, and many of us knew him from The Guardian when he was at The Guardian for so many years, and most recently at the Mitten. His wife Colleen is the manager at For the Love of Shoes. His oldest, Alex, works for me at Red Dock, and one of his daughters, Lizzie, also works for me. 2 of his kids also work at For the Love of Shoes. He died unexpectedly at age 51. So I just hope that all of us can support his family through this tough time. And his funeral is on Wednesday at St. Pete's.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, what I loved about Birdie comment on Douglasville on Sunday is she talked about the heavy heart in the community with his death and, the impact of that on his family and everybody who knows and loves the family. And then contrasting that with just, again, support everybody's right to free speech, but just the deplorable comments. And we have a choice, we can choose how we behave. And I think those of us who know people who are spreading hate and vitriol in our community, we need to talk to them and preserve what's good and right about this community. And so that we have loving hearts and spirits to see each other through really hard lives and lifetimes. So appreciate all of you and all that you do for the city, and appreciate everybody for joining us. And with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Meeting adjourned.